All right. Hello. I see people are now joining the stream. Guten Abend, Mr. Würfelbunker. All right, yeah, more and more people are coming in. Hello. As always, let me know if you can, um, see me well, if you can hear me well. I think everything should be okay. Um, and then we will be able to start. Uh, yes, I will give you the good stuff. Um, okay. Greetings from Boston. Greetings from Portugal. Um, okay. 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 Looks and sounds good. We have somebody from Bavaria saying Servus. All right. Cool. Yeah, let's get going. I see we already have 50 people, more than 50 people. Oh, 70 people. All right, this is starting to get big fast. So I think we shall just begin our stream for the night. Welcome everyone to the monthly OPR Hangout stream. If you have never been here before, the way that this works is at the beginning we are going to have section where we talk about studio updates and what's going on at OPR. Then we have a section where we basically look at whatever minis are coming out next month. Um, and then after that, we're gonna have a couple of like previews of the minis that are coming up, like of concept art of minis that are coming up a few months from now. And then finally, at the end, we are gonna have a quick Q&A session. I've been trying to condense these streams so that they're not super long anymore. Some streams were 3 hours long. We kind of had settled at around an hour and a half, but then those usually always went a little bit longer as well. But now I'm really trying to get firmly in the 1 hour to 1 hour and a half, time space. So I'll try and make this as quick as possible to just give you the goods. Um, all right, cool. Then let's get into this. So first thing first, Broken Truth is funded. Broken Truth, the Broken Truth campaign just ended a few days ago. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's amazing that finally we are gonna have a big box set for OPR available for people to buy, and it's gonna be in stores. Actually, right now we're talking to a bunch of retailers and distributors to get it in the various stores, and we already have stores that bought it via the campaign and that have already put it on their website or that are contacting us to buy some more and stuff like that. So that's very cool. Right now we are in the process, yes, of being in contact with retailers. Also, there's going to be the pledge manager, and we are already in talks with the manufacturer to slowly get the manufacturing going. So we hope that you know honestly, this should all go pretty good and smooth. So far, this whole process has gone much smoother than we thought. You launch your first big crowdfunding campaign, especially for physical, and you think, oh, there's gonna be a million issues, and it's gonna be, I don't know, things that you hadn't foreseen, and then I don't know, the campaign's gonna launch and there's gonna be issue with the website. And honestly, it was like it was pretty smooth. We did it. We figured out how it works. It took a while, of course, and then it launched, and it was good. Nothing crashed. Yeah, there was nothing like, oh no, we need to let people know that something, I don't know. It all went pretty smooth, and so I'm hoping that it continues going smooth, and that we can, of course, deliver everything on time. The campaign was successful enough that we are also now already slowly in the talks about future game content and future um, physical releases. So that is pretty exciting. Thank you everyone that has backed the campaign. Of course, we couldn't have done it without you, but I think the ultimate thanks will of course be once you receive the box at home, and you get to play the games. um, yeah. All right, but look, Broken Truth is very cool, but that's not the reason you came to this stream. The reason you came to this stream is because we are going to talk about v3.5 game release. Woo! So this is the yearly game update. Usually this happens in September. Originally we had planned for this to go out towards the end of September, but then when the beta was delayed, we decided to let it, simmer for another month, and so it came out. Well, it's coming out now at the end of October. Um, just to be clear, though, that's not our plan for the future. So, the next yearly update is planned for September 2026, and so on and so forth. Um, and honestly, even though like the 2 month beta period was long, and it was, whoa, it was a lot of work. I think it was good that we ended up extending it to 2 months and not just do it in 1 month, because there was a lot of stuff going on and we learned a lot from the beta. But yes, so that's beta talk. Let's talk about the actual release. I actually have some notes so I can talk about it as a whole. My assumption is, of course, that not everybody here was part of the beta, not everybody here followed that. So I'm going to talk about this for everyone. So, first things first. What's up with v3.5? Why are we doing this? What's going on? So every year we make a new big update in September. In this case, October. Blah blah. The thing I just said. Why do we do it? To keep the games fresh, to keep applying feedback provided to us by the fans. It's just a yearly maintenance of the game. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. Back in the day, we used to do updates much more frequently, but then thanks to community feedback, we decided to make them yearly. So we have these yearly large updates, and then we have quarterly smaller updates, just patching little things, maybe, updating some units in an army, maybe refreshing an army here and there, but not these bigger updates. Um, V3.5 started with a lot of different ideas of what it wanted to be. It then, of course, evolved over the development time and even more over the beta period. So overall, if I have to like summarize what V3.5 is about, it now in a form that you are getting, it really is about giving you a bunch of new toys to play with. That's really what V3.5 has become about, and I think it is very successful at that. So, what does new toys mean? It means for a bunch of armies, you're getting new units, you're getting new upgrades, there's new weapons, there's new special rules, there's new auras, there's new spell lists, there's a bunch of cool new stuff for you to play with. The main. Oh, somebody said audio lost. Oh, lol. And now they said it was them. Sorry, sorry. Let's continue. So, so yeah, it's about getting all the cool new stuff. Um, in terms of how the actual games play, the core rules are unchanged. You are playing the games exactly the same way. Like nothing is different from before. Alternating activations, capture the objectives. Everything is the same. You play the games exactly the same way. So whilst there are, of course, updates to the core rules PDFs, they don't actually change how you play the game. They're mostly like clarifications, grammatical things, and of course special rules that are tied to these army updates that I discussed. Um, and that's kind of the gist of it. So I think honestly the biggest thing that's quote unquote changed is that we have clarified better the language when it comes to seizing objectives versus controlling objectives. Like it, sometimes right now we were always, or v3.4, we were always just using the term seized, and then sometimes for players it was confused. Like, do you mean the active term of seizing the objective? Do you mean controlling the objective? What do you mean in this mission? And so we've clarified it, and that's about it. So the core rules are the same. It's still the game that you love to play. The only games that are changing more are Quest and Star Quest. There we did like a bunch of like major balance tweaks in the core rules, but overall they're still played exactly the same. So you have your heroes, they activate first, they do their actions. Then you have the enemies, they do their stuff. You have the waves. So again, the game is played the same way, but there are different. Some things that cost more power now cost less power. The length, the difficulty level is changed. These type of things. They're just like tweaks to stats, but the games are played the same way. So, big summary: game is played the same. Armies were updated with a bunch of new cool stuff for you. One thing that we should probably mention before we go into specifics, of course, is that we are updating special rules, names, and aliases. For those that don't know what aliases is, basically in v3.4, if you noticed, there are a million rules with different names, but really, most of them are not different rules. They're just the same rule with different names in different armies. And this has caused like a lot of confusion between for players. Sure, in some ways it allowed us to have maybe a bit more flavor, some here and there, in the way that we were naming things, but we found a way to change it, of course. But ultimately it kind of became this weird confusion of like, okay, what rule do you have? Whatever, I don't know, you give it a random name, and then it's like, okay, wait, I've never heard of this rule, and then the other player explains it, and you're like, wait, it kind of sounds like that other rule. Then you go check that out, and you're like, wait, it's the same rule. So it's like they have this different name. So we basically removed aliasing from the armies, and we've removed aliasing from the armies, and so basically all rules except for the army-wide rules always have the same name, so that it's easy for you to understand. Like, hey, ambush is ambush is ambush. You're not going to have 10 different names for ambush. You're not going to have 10 different names for whatever other rule. We are, of course, keeping the aliasing system in the Army Forge Studio. So if players are making custom armies and they want to continue using aliasing, of course they can do that. But yeah, generally speaking, we have genericized, let's say, the names, so that it's easier to understand what rule is what. We've also tried to make sure that the names are a bit clearer on the intent of the rule. And part of the goal here is that you should be able, as often as possible, you should be able to read a rule's name and understand its content without actually having to read the rule. So before, for example, you might have a rule called, I don't know, on the march, and it was like it essentially gave this model and its unit get fast, which yeah. And so now we basically have a pattern where we say, well, a rule that says this model and its unit get X, that's an aura. And fast is what it gives you. So now instead of being called on the march, whatever, and then you have to figure out what it does, it's just going to be called fast aura. And then okay, fast aura, I know what that does. It's this model, its unit get fast. So then when you see regeneration aura, you're like, okay, this model, its unit get regeneration. Scout aura, this model, its unit get scout, right? So it's very basic for you to then understand what is going on, which hopefully makes the game faster for you, clearer to understand, easier to learn for new players. As always, streamlining as much as we can, as we do at OPR. All right. Now, for the actual update to the armies. So the armies are being updated a lot, let's say. So like it's 100 armies across both games. So it's a lot of content. And I'm not going to be able to go into every army and talk about that. So let's talk about like what is generally changing to armies overall. So first off, well, like I mentioned before, some armies are getting new units. And yeah, that's kind of across the board. Then all armies now have an army-wide rule, and some armies that already had an army-wide rule have seen their army-wide rule change. What's an army-wide rule? So if you were playing, for example, Sisters, you had the devout rule, right? Every model has devout, and then that's your army-wide rule. If you were playing orcs, the orcs had furious, so that's their army-wide rule, and stuff like that. Army-wide rules are a simple way to make sure that like all the units in an army feel cohesive and that the army feels yeah, it feels thematic. It feels like it all makes sense together, and it's not just a bunch of disparate units with different stats. And it's like, well, we put them in one list, so they're one army, and this way they feel more together. So every army now has an army-wide rule. Other than that, you've received new toys like armies have new weapons, access to new weapons. They have access to new special rules. They have access, like units have access to new upgrades. Maybe they have a new cool banner that gives them the ability to go faster, or maybe they have a cool new targeting visor that allows them to pick an enemy and get a bonus to hit against them and stuff like that. So you're getting a bunch of new toys there in as weapons and upgrades. Then we have also reworked all of the hero auras and added more. So before maybe you had an army that only had one hero, and that hero could just give your units fast and that's it. And now every army has a bunch of different auras, so that you can much better customize your heroes and put them in different units and get like cool combos going with your heroes. And then finally, we have reworked all of the spell lists with new spells, new attack spells, spells that are specific to the army, that really like feel like it's all one thing together. So um, yeah, that's the overall gist of it. If you played the game in v3.4 and you felt like your army was lagging behind and other armies get all the cool stuff, don't worry. Now all the armies get cool stuff. Okay, moving on. A couple of key highlights. I had mentioned these before, but I'll talk about them again, just to be clear. So there are a couple of things that were changed that yeah, I guess that we just have to talk about. So, number one, the undead rule, also known as robot rule, also known as no retreat, also known as, again, with rules aliasing, has so many different names, but let's call it undead. The undead rule has been removed as an army wide rule. So, if you have an undead army, a robot army where every model had the undead rule, that has been removed. The undead rule has been very problematic for a long time. It's essentially the type of rule that for some players ends up being a huge feels bad. For other players, it ends up being a huge advantage in learning how to essentially, I don't want to say break the game, but how to become very, very hard to beat. And so we have removed undead as an army wide rule. All the armies that used to have undead as an army wide rule now have access to it via heroes. So you can get a hero and get an undead. It's called no retreat now, a no retreat aura, and you can use that, but you cannot spam undead across an entire army anymore, which will help make the game much more balanced for new players and veterans alike. Let's talk about Demon. So Demon is another one of those rules that was a big problem. It was a mess because, again, for some people it's good, for some people it's not. It creates a weird imbalance in the armies. So the Demon rule has been removed slash changed. So now for demons, instead of all demon units having ambush, now heroes can buy what we're calling demonic incursion, which basically is a way to give your units ambush. It's an ambush aura. And so that's your way to get ambush. And on the other hand, there's a bunch of units in demon armies that now have scout. Um, and so now you don't have the demon rule anymore where units could choose to ambush or scout, but like, okay, part of your army can ambush, part of your army can scout. Not everybody gets everything automatically, and it creates a much more balanced experience. Then rending and poison, those were two rules that, well, poison has been renamed, but that doesn't really matter that much. Rending and poison, so these are rules that before were army wide, which means that there were armies that had them on pretty much all weapons, or on most weapons, or on most weapons across most units, whatever. These have been considered problematic for a long time because essentially they have army wide ignores regeneration, which makes it kind of useless for other armies to have regeneration at all. And so it kind of created a weird situation where, depending on who you went up against, some things made no sense. And so basically, we have removed army-wide rending and poison, and those armies now get some other cool rule on their weapons. Aircraft and lock-on. Aircraft is one of those uh, unit types that has been considered problematic for a long time. A lot of people find that they are too hard to beat, and they are too cheap, and so basically they have been tweaked. We have removed the -1 to hit on aircraft. You still have the -12 inch range when targeting aircraft, but you don't have the -1 to hit anymore. And the cost of aircraft has also been tweaked. In order to not make the lock on rule, which now has been called unstoppable, feel useless, it's also been reworked to be more generally usable. So you shouldn't just, sorry, you don't have to. It doesn't only make sense to take it if aircraft is on the field. You can also use it against regular units in a way that works. Then move orders. So we had a bunch of rules that were basically what we're calling move orders. So it's kind of like a rule where you picked another unit and then that unit got to move 6 inches. Those have been removed from the game. Again, the type of thing that caused a lot of imbalance between different armies, where it kind of was like, well, if an army has access to it, they automatically have an advantage over all the other armies, and if another army doesn't have it, then you're immediately at disadvantage. And this is especially felt if you're playing like um, if you it kind of feels like a little gotcha moment where it's like, oh, you didn't even know that a player could do this, and suddenly they can outmaneuver you in a way that, well, you can't do anything because you just don't have access to that kind of rule. So that was changed. Two more points. Artillery. Artillery has been reworked across both games. Essentially, now we have an artillery rule. Before you had the rule called entrenched. That rule was renamed to artillery, and it works differently now. Now, when the artillery shoots over a certain range, it gets +1 to hit. So cool. It makes artillery better. But of course, artillery also has the immobile rule, which means that they cannot move. To make sure that this is kind of balanced, there's multiple things happening here. Every artillery piece has both weapons that fire indirectly as well as weapons that fire directly. A cannon versus a mortar. And you also have many armies that have artillery also have access to a hero type, let's say, that we call artillerists, which basically allow you to reposition the artillery. So it's a way to play with artillery there. Honestly, artillery is one of those things that not that many players use, but you know there you go. Improved it for you. And finally, swarms. Swarms are another one of those unit types that has been considered not really balanced for a long time. Essentially, swarms were super cheap. They all had like access to like ambush and scout, and they were basically just a way to. Again, it's kind of the thing where like if your army has access to swarms, you just have a kind of. It's not that you have a win button, but you have a tool that you can use that makes winning so much easier compared to armies that don't have swarms, and that kind of sucks. So we have reworked them. Basically, we have removed certain things like ambush and fearless from swarms, and we've also increased the quality of swarms from 6 up to 5 up, which makes them a little bit more expensive. Of course, also a little bit better in combat, and this should help balance them out. Um, Speaking of cost, overall, of course, the point costs were tweaked. We have added a bunch of stuff. Every army now has army-wide rules, all that sort of stuff. So, of course, everything everything got more expensive. We have applied a global multiplier that essentially like kind of like tweaked things backwards. So everything kind of went back to being more or less in line with what we have in v3.4. But of course, units have changed, army wide rules have changed, all that stuff. So some units inevitably will be more expensive than they used to be. Some units will inevitably be less expensive than they used to be. And no amount of tweaking a global multiplayer can get us, to a point where everything has the exact same cost as in v3.4 because the stats have changed, the rules have changed, and stuff like that. There's other things that we have tweaked in the um, in the army, sorry, in the points calculator. Generally speaking, tough units. So there is a multiplier of tough units that kind of like makes them a bit more expensive. That has been toned down a little bit. So tough units should be a bit less expensive to kind of balance out. A lot of players felt that tough units were way too expensive compared to units without tough, and so we're kind of trying to balance that out a little bit more. So that's been tweaked down. So tough units will be cheaper. So transports will be a little bit cheaper and stuff like that. Hopefully making them more useful. And then lots of other things were tweaked in the point calculator. For example, we spotted actually at very late into the process, we spotted that rules that trigger on rolls of 6 and rules that trigger on rolls of 1 were not being calculated correctly. So we have fixed that. So now the cost is correct with that. Lots of things like that, and many small tweaks here and there have made things different in terms of costs. But armies should still be playable at the standard game sizes. One personal recommendation that I have for people going into v3.5 is, of course, it is very tempting to open up your army, see that you have access to like a million new things, and immediately build an army that takes all the new rules and all the new upgrades and stuff like that. Which can be fun, but that's also an easy way for you to very quickly get overwhelmed if you all the things that you don't know, you add them all at once. So I would recommend pacing yourself, even though it's all the cool new shiny stuff. But also one thing is like all of these things, they cost points. So if you have an army and then you load it up on all the new upgrades, and then suddenly you're like, oh my god, like I have way less models now for the same 2,000 points army. My brother, you put stuff that is expensive on your army, of course everything is gonna cost more. So I think the best way to play with these tools is to add a few here and there tactically, strategically, and have fun with them. But again, look, in the end, you do what you want. If you want to load up on all the new special rules, go ahead and have fun. What else do we need to talk about? I mean, that's kind of it, really. Lots of small changes, like rules being renamed, like I said, little tweaks here and there to various special rules. Of course, as always, we're fixing grammar issues, typos. We're clarifying things in the rule book. I'm looking here through my notes if there's anything else that we need to talk about. Of course, as always, everything is being updated for free, so you don't need to buy anything new. All of your core rules, all of your advanced rules, all of your expansion packs, all of your narrative campaigns, everything is being updated. Everything is free, so you know, enjoy. And oh, actually, one of the cool things that we did is we have completely reworked the design of our mission cards. So if you played with mission cards, definitely go check it out and maybe print some new ones if you want, because I think they look much cooler now. And actually, we have updated the mission cards for the skirmish games, so that actually now you have cards that work properly, because before we had mission cards that didn't really work well for skirmish, and now they work well for skirmish. Let me see what else. Yeah, fixed a bunch of stuff. Tournament packs. So there's a new tournament pack. So this is a new tournament season, 2025/2026 tournament season. So there is a completely new tournament pack. It has completely been overhauled. The structure of the tournament pack is different, which is much more improved. We basically now have like a sheet that's for organizers, a sheet for players. The missions have been reworked, so now you don't have this weird thing where before some things were optional and not. We have reworked things so that now there's like tiebreakers that work well. Lots of stuff like that. Updates for Quest and Star Quest. Like I said, there's lots of stuff going on there. I would highly recommend, if you play those games, that you go check out the post that we're gonna put on the website, or of course, just check out the final rules. Um, yeah, I don't know. Okay, let me talk about a couple of armies that have received some big highlights. Um, okay, Grimdark Future, Alien Hives. They've actually been updated. In a big way. I mean, I guess it depends on how you see it. So one of the issues that we saw with the alien hives is that they were very powerful. So we've kind of been trying to tweak the access to different things. So like before, there were lots of units that got access to regeneration. Now maybe they only have access to resistance. Heavy beasts, which are all tough 18, have been brought down to tough 15, not only to make them a little bit more manageable, but also to make them more easy to be played in standard games. We have also reworked the heroes since we fixed one of the issues that we had with Firefight. We have removed the what was it called, the veteran warrior, because it was not necessary anymore. You of course still have the prime warrior. The Synapse Tyrant is not considered a hero anymore. It's now considered a beast, so that was changed. And you actually have received a new hero, which is called a Grunt Veteran, which will allow you to have a smaller hero that joins various units. That's an army that changed a lot. Human Inquisition. Okay, this army is one of those that has changed a lot. We have added a bunch of new units, a bunch of new vehicles. We have completely reworked all of the assassin heroes to be tough 3 units rather than tough 6 units, which allows you to, bring them in normal games better. And also, every unit has been reworked. They have new weapon options, they have new upgrade options, they have lots of new cool stuff. So if you're somebody that loved the Human Inquisition, but you always felt like they were a little bit behind compared to other factions, these have been reworked. Um, Titan Lords, another army that was kind of left behind and that we decided to rework. We have added a new Titan. We now call it a mini Titan. It's called the Vassal Micro Titan. Sorry, not mini Titan. The Vassal Micro Titan is a new Titan that's available that is cheaper and smaller. And we've also heavily reworked the upgrades across the upgrade options across all Titans, which makes Titans much more playable at your regular 2,000 point games. The Wormhole Demons have, of course, been reworked where they. Oh, sorry, I need to crack my back. The Wormhole Demons have been reworked, as I mentioned before, with the whole demon thing, where ambush is now a thing that can be bought by heroes. Some units have scout. There's more access to ranged options that they didn't have before, so they can better fight off things like tanks or aircraft and stuff like that. Also, they can now take auras. Before, demons were one of those factions where like heroes couldn't take auras, so they were kind of just there. So now they can take auras. Actually, Alien Hives as well were one of those factions which did not have access to auras, and now heroes actually have access to auras. Um, yeah, I think that's the major ones for Grimdark Future. For Age of Fantasy, Giant Tribes, same thing as with Titan Lords. We added a new unit, which is a half giant, which is a smaller giant that it's more easy to take. We've also heavily reworked all of the upgrade options for all the giants, so they are much more customizable, and that they're more easy to take in your standard 1,500 point game. So lots of stuff going on there. And then the same thing with the Rift Demons. The Rift Demons also got the same updates as Grimdark Future. There's a lot. I'm looking at this. There's dozens of new units that were added to the game, guys. Go have fun. Go check it out. Everything is being updated as we speak. The team is currently updating Army Forge. They're currently updating books. So by the end of this stream, everything should be available for you to download. There's also going to be a website post about everything. I'm very excited about v3.5. I think this is an awesome step forward, and I'm looking forward to the future. As always, this is OPR. It's a living game. Everything is based off player feedback. So give us your feedback. It helps us a ton in improving the games. You can expect. Depends on the feedback we get, but there might be a hot fix within the next month. If we find that there's lots of like little grammatical errors or whatever that we need to fix, then there'll be a hot fix, and it will be v3.5.1 instead of v3.5.0. So there'll be a hot fix there for you. But otherwise, the core game is meant to stay stable over the next year. And what else? And then otherwise, every quarter we do the smaller updates. Maybe armies get tweaked, maybe things get tweaked there. I know that there's people that have seen the beta end, and they enjoyed the beta process, and they were, I don't want to say desperate. They were kind of like, oh my god, like the beta is over, and like, but I had a lot of suggestions, and I think there's things that could be improved, but now the beta is over. It's over. It's like, no, baby, it's all good. Every quarter we do new updates. So provide us with your feedback. Go on our Discord. Let us know what's up. And then every quarter we will continue updating the armies and improving the armies. And then a year from now we're gonna update the core rules, and then it's the regular flow of OPR. I think that's it. I would like to thank everybody that participated in the beta. This was a crazy process, but very helpful. I honestly, it was very interesting. Maybe at some point I can talk about it more. Maybe at the end of the stream, I'm not sure. But it was a very interesting process. Also, it brought me back because back in the day, OPR rules were updated very frequently, like on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. There were constant updates, and like I was working all the time on the rules and tweaking things in there. And since we switched on the yearly updates, I'm still working on the rules all the time, but like it's a different pace. And these last 8 weeks of working on the beta reminded me of like what that crazy the crazy paces of like, you make a change and then people give you feedback and you change it again, and then okay, we tweak here, we tweak there, and you test and results, and it's a very cool process. I have to admit, it is also quite exhausting. So in a way, I am glad that the beta is over. But don't worry, we have plans for how to improve this process in the future. I have already teased before and spoken about OPR Labs. That's something that I'm hoping we can start, giving you access to sooner rather than later. And then we will probably have like an extended labs period, and then another beta before the next update comes out next year, and stuff like that. All right, cool. That's it talking about v3.5. Let's move on with the stream talking about. Oh, yeah, well, it's still about 3.5. New quick start sets are now available. So, as always, we update the rules, we'll update the quick start sets. So now, if you have never played OPR, or if you've only played, for example, Quest or Star Quest, and you're interested in playing the bigger games like Skirmish or, full on battle games, you can grab the quick start sets. These are completely free. They contain, a bunch of models, terrain, tokens, and stuff like that, all for free. Both available as 3D printable things and 2D printable, like paper printable things. These are, like I said, completely free and completely shareable. So if you have any friends that might be interested, just send them the files. Send them the send the quick start guides. If you have a school club, this is great because it's free, so you can print a dozen copies of the games and the minis and just give them out. You can show these off at the local game club. Like I for me, the quick start sets are such a simple way to introduce new players to the games. And they are super shareable, which I think is really awesome. As always, the quick start sets come with a 5 mission tutorial where you basically learn how to play the game from the most basic, like how do you move, then how do you shoot, how do you get into melee, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, there's also rules for how to like just have a battle and play the game. And yeah, they've been updated. These are going to be valid for another year, and then whenever the next edition, like v3.6, comes out, then we are going to have a new set of quick start sets. And again, the cycle of OPR, giving away things, and giving away, um, you know, giving love to the community. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Moonmire's Proving Grounds. Let me just quickly take a sippy of my tea. Moonmire's Proving Grounds, awesome. So Moonmire's Proving Grounds is our new Age of Fantasy Skirmish mission pack. We are launching in November. Um, this is a remaster of the Proving Grounds Age of Fantasy Skirmish quick start set. So not quick start set, sorry, mission pack. So if you already had that mission pack, don't worry. This is gonna be upgraded and given to you for free. It's gonna come with 4 new heroes and minis for them. Of course, those are not part of the pack, so you're gonna have to purchase those in the campaign or separately later. But the main book will be updated for you for free. What happens with a remaster? Basically, the regular version or the old version is just a book that has 18 missions and that's it. No fluff, no nothing. Whereas with the remaster, you now get a bunch of story, art, new characters, and a bunch of cool lore and intro background. It helps set the stage. I think that's the cool thing. And the Moonmire's Proving Grounds campaign, I don't know, I love the idea. Basically, like the whole thing is that Moonmire essentially has all these champions come together into these sort of like arena combat situation, and so you're basically playing your 18 missions, um, of like skirmish and different guys battling together, and you can play with a bunch of people, and there's really cool missions in there. One of the cool new features with Moonmire's Proving Grounds is, so with these mission packs, you basically get 18 missions, and then we suggest like, hey, an easy way for you to play this is like just play from start to finish, play the 18 missions, or there's a way for you to randomize what you play and stuff like that. But one thing that we've kind of realized is that for some players, understandably, playing like 18 missions can be a bit overwhelming. It's like, ooh, maybe I don't have time to play all of the 18 missions. So one new thing that we're introducing, one new feature that we're introducing into mission packs, is essentially maybe it's not the best word, but it's basically like a campaign tree, a sort of like branching tree campaign setup where basically it's like, okay, you have player A, player B. You play the first mission of the pack, and then okay, player A won. Okay, go play this mission. Player B won. Go play that mission. And then based on who wins when, you essentially like branch out and play, a different set of missions. So if you're somebody that's like, look, I don't have the time. I don't care to play all the 18 missions. Just take me on a fun ride. Then that's an awesome way for you to start and just be like, okay, we're gonna play. I think ultimately it's I don't remember the exact number, but I think hold on, let me check. I have it somewhere in my notes. I think. Um. Oh, I cannot find it now. Where's the branching thing? Okay, I cannot find my notes. Whatever. But basically, instead of having to play 18 missions, you only end up playing, I think, 6 or 7 or 8. I don't remember, but basically, whatever. You get it. You play the game, and you get to do a bunch of cool stuff, and you don't have to worry about playing 18 missions in total. What's happening here? No, it's okay. Cool. So that's Moonmire's Proving Grounds. You're gonna get 4 armies with it. It's gonna be the Beastmen. It's gonna be the Demons of Lust. It's going to be the Ratmen, and it's going to be the Mummified Undead with 4 cool heroes that go with the faction. Actually, here you can see them. On the left, you can see Hakemba, which is the Beastman Shaman, and on the right, you can actually see Moonmire herself, who is the master of this arena. Actually, the cover art looks really cool. Yeah, and there's lots of cool stuff in there. So yeah, if you wanted a cool way to play Age of Fantasy Skirmish, this is it. One of the things that I hear often people say is like, oh, like I like the idea of playing these games, but I've played the core mission a bunch of times. I'm getting kind of bored. And they feel like the game, like what more can I do? And the mission packs are an awesome way for you to get like a bunch of new missions, a bunch of new ways to play. They come with lots of cool new special rules and different objectives and stuff like that. And it really helps you play a game that feels different every time. All right, cool. Moving on to the next thing, which is yes, there's a new welcome pack. Yeah, this actually released last month, but now we're moving on to the actual like Patreon slash minis updates section of the stream. And yeah, the new welcome pack has just released last month. So if you join the page for now, you are going to get the welcome pack that features, of course, as always, our 8 quest and star quest heroes. You get the warrior, the Saurian warrior, you get the Ratman cleric, you get the HDF sniper, which is the pathfinder, the whatever. You get all the lovely quest and star quest heroes as always. But now the new featured factions are, we kind of went beast many. So on the fantasy side, you get the Beastmen, where you're gonna get the Beastmen Raiders with the Raider hero, and as well as the Hounds. And then on the Jackal side, you are going to get the elites and your elite veteran hero. And yeah, join our Patreon, and you're going to get these things as part of it on top of everything else. All right, now let's take a look at what's coming out in November. So, starting with the dwarves, the first thing that you're going to get is the elites, also known as the hammer elites. These are your big, heavy, massive breaking infantry. They carry these massive hammers. They are part of the mining side of the faction. That's why they have these funky headlights on their faces, because they're kind of like miners. They need to see underground. You're going to get I think it's 5 models, male, female, big hammers. You're going to get a command group. As always, the command group for the dwarves has a standard and the horn that are based off various elements of the unit, which I think is really cool. So, for example, here you can see like their banner looks like a great hammer, and the horn actually looks like their helmet. And oh, okay, I just saw a comment. This is interesting. I just saw a comment saying, "Isn't Hakemba the same beastman that invaded Duchies in their faction book?" Haha, yes. Is everything correct connected? Yes. Actually, sorry. I've gotta quickly derail to come back. But one thing, very important, I completely forgot. So for those that don't know, all of our narrative campaigns are actually part of a much bigger narrative, a meta narrative that we call for OPR, which is basically what we call our saga. So the idea for OPR is that we have the world books where you get an idea of the setting as a whole. And a lot of people read it and were like, okay, I get the setting, but like, where's the story? And it's like, this is the story. The story is told through our narrative campaigns. And that's the meta narrative, that's the sagas. And so, one of the things that we did to emphasize this is that in every narrative campaign, you now at the beginning it tells you like, hey, this book is part of this saga, and this is book X out of Y of this saga, so you can have an easier time understanding like, okay, where do I start, where do I go? And eventually we're also planning on having specific pages on our website where you can better understand the sagas and where they start and where they're going and so on and so forth. Okay, going back. So yes, the hammer leads. You get these guys, and they're awesome, big hammers. So simple. Um, then we get the I forget the name now. So this is your champion, your dwarf champion with the great stone. I forget what it's called. Ancestral stone, I think it's called. Essentially, we have this idea that they have these um they have these magical coal in the faction. And when we had this thought of like, well, how do we make a how do we make this ancestral stone, right, as a concept? What could it mean for the dwarves? And we thought like, ooh, what if we take the actual coal and we kind of put them together in this big coal stone sort of slab thing, and then the guy carries it on his back and it's filled with like these magical powers and runes and stuff like that. And so this is a really cool hero model. I think it's very cool when you see like the little dwarf with the big stone. Yeah. So that's a hero that you're going to get. Then you are also going to get the beast construct rider. So the beast constructs, they're basically part of the the mountain part of the faction. So they're not the mining part, they're the mountain part. And the idea here is basically that the dwarves have kind of created these weird semi-sentient creatures. They're actually kind of cute. They have like this sort of like ball shape, and they have like this little mouth that's kind of their face, and they can kind of tilt it and rotate it, almost like a mole. That's kind of the idea here. Like, so it goes around like, it sniffs around. And yeah, they carry big halberds to fight. You get male and female, of course. You get 3 poses for the combat poses, and then of course you get the 3 command poses. You get a standard bearer, a musician, and a sergeant. And then, of course, you're going to also get a hero on a great beast construct. And his stuff is full of pipes and stuff like that. And he has like a tactical coal rock. And yeah, this is your hero on a great beast construct. These are actually pretty powerful. Like, I think they're tough 3. Well, the hero is actually tough 6. They're pretty. They're faster, let's say, than your usual. They're not fast, but they're faster than your usual dwarf units. And actually, once you're gonna see eventually what the helicopters look like, they're related to that design, and everything is related to everything. So if you actually look at the back of their body, it's related to the war machines, and lots of stuff there. Then you are also going to get the final thing for November, which is the stone thrower. I don't think we call it a catapult. I think we call it a stone thrower. Honestly, this is probably the more basic of all of their war machines. It has a big, instead of throwing rocks, it throws like these. Well, I mean, I guess they're rocks. It throws like these coal rocks. It also comes with a crew. There's 3 command. I'm sorry, not command. 3 crew, male, female. They're carrying different stuff. There's buddies. Cute stuff all around. All right, moving on to the Goblin Reclaimers. So, what are you getting for November? For November, we're going to start with the Storm Mob. The Storm Mob basically is the melee version of your basic goblins. So, they come with pistols and close combat weapons, and then they can also upgrade with different types of close combat weapons. Compared to the shooter mob, they all have these kind of like funky helmets with like um, fins. And actually, as we move further into the faction, you're gonna see like the fin motif is actually something that can be found in different places. So this is the storm mob. Yes. And then, of course, you're going to get a Storm Champion, which is your hero. He has 3 fins on his head rather than 2. Of course, male and female, lots of different weapon options. Comes with a pistol, comes with the regular carabine, comes with the different carabine attachments, comes with, the saw, the hammer, it comes with everything that you know and love. And I think these guys came out really cute. Then you are going to get the jetpack mob. Jetpack mob, really, it's the storm mob with jetpacks. So in the rules, I think it's literally just an upgrade that's for the jetpacks. And yes, they fly around. We took this idea that we did a long time ago when we did the dwarves, where we had like the steam or the smoke coming out of their jetpacks, and that actually is what holds them up. And we thought that was a cool idea that could fit here for the goblins as well, so we did it. And yeah, as always, they come with pistols, swords, different special pistols. Here you're seeing the bubble pistol, for example. They also have the thing with the fins on the head. You can actually see that these guys have like a bunch of grenades strapped to their chest. And then, of course, you're gonna get a hero version, and this is the Jetpack Champ. Same as before. He has a cooler jetpack that has 3 thrusters rather than just 2. You can see here, yeah, a bunch of the weapons options on the right. You can see the regular hand weapon. You can see the special sword. You can see the saw, claw, hammer, the fist. What else are we seeing here? Carbines, different attachment, different pistols, lots of options. Then after that, you are also going to get our first mechanized unit, which is the Death Walkers. So the Death Walkers here, you're only seeing 1 out of 3. Each one has a slightly different design. This one has 2 fins. There's one that has antennas. There's one that only has 1 fin. Very cool. Each one is different. They have different damage and stuff like that. The Death Walkers come with lots of different weapon options. They have 2 arms that can have different melee weapons. They can also have ranged weapons, I think, in the right arm. And then they can also have ranged weapons on the forehead. The way that these guys are essentially meant to be built is that you have 2 melee. If you have 2 melee weapons, then you have your gun on the forehead. Or if you want, you have 1 melee weapon and 1 gun in one hand. Up to you how you want to build them. And then you actually have um, the little viewport where you can see the little goblin looking out. You have male and female, and then of course we also made a closed viewport for those that don't want to paint a face in there. Okay, and then one of the cool things about the goblins is that unlike other factions, they actually have a hero version of their walkers, and this is the Death Walker Champ. We had this idea we had this concept a long time ago when we started the goblins of like, ooh, what if the goblins, since they have these mechs and tanks and whatever that are like champs, what if they put capes on them because they're heroes, right? And so, yes, all of the various like champs on or in tanks and in walkers are gonna have capes. And so here you can see your cool um, Deathwalker champ. Has a cool cape, has the same weapon options as the others, so different guns in the hands, different guns on the forehead, and then of course you have the viewport that you can switch around and stuff like that. All right, moving on from the Goblin Reclaimers. Okay, looking at quest. For quest, you are going to get the mummified undead rogue. We thought this was a cool concept. You don't really get to see this very often. So it's your little stealthy mummified undead skeleton. I think that's really cool for your party. And actually, with their new rules in v3.5, they're gonna be very interesting because they get like a sort of like range bonus when they charge. Yeah, and you're gonna be able to make a cool hero. And well, you definitely need to check out if you're into quests and Star Quest. You definitely need to check out the new rules and see all the new cool stuff that you can do. For Star Quest, you are going to get the Dwarf Infiltrator. I have to say, I love this model. Simple but effective. And actually, funny enough, an infiltrator essentially is the Star Quest version of a rogue. Um, So yeah, this guy's also your stealthy, shooty, killy, stabby guy. Yeah, like I said, I love this design. He has like this little grappling hook on his back, which can be used to sneaky sneak, and he has the classic OPR Dwarf Guilds design with the tubes essentially replacing the beard when they have a helmet on. Okay, cool. Moving on. Okay, we have the terrain. So we are currently doing our jungle slash Xenos terrain series, and this month or next month in November, I guess, we are releasing the large terrain. We have, it's jungle terrain. You have lots of funky plants. You have lots of jungly trees. Different things hanging around. One of the things that we did when we created this terrain is we wanted to make sure, and generally we want to make sure that these generic terrains that we're making are settings agnostic. So one of the things that we did is when we designed the faction, the look of the buildings that are found in the jungle, we tried to make them feel like something that could both work for sci-fi and for fantasy. And I think honestly, it turned out pretty cool. So that is your terrain for November. What is the last big thing for November? Of course, we are taking a look at the legendary, which is the dwarf helicopter construct. The dwarf helicopter construct is a menace. This is a massive model. Essentially, it's a helicopter that carries helicopters for the dwarves. It is so big, it didn't fit in the screenshot, but basically at the top it also has like propellers. So that it's in the same style as the dwarves. At the bottom, it has this big gun. It has additional cannons and stuff like that. It's filled with different crew doing stuff. There's people tinkering. There's buddies around. There's a guy controlling the whole thing. Here you're seeing only the front. There is more stuff happening behind these guys. Amazing. Honestly, one of the coolest models we've ever made. Massive, massive. Like, it's big enough that I would say you could print two of these and make like a skirmish. You could have a skirmish game where like you're jumping from one to the other and fighting there. So yeah, this is the legendary, and I think it really deserves to be called a legendary. Okay, finally, let's take a look. So, speaking still of November releases, let's take a look at tier three. Because yeah, we're now doing a tier three. So for tier three, yeah, I couldn't find a picture that was horizontal from back in the day, so I decided to basically copy paste it and show it like this. So for tier three, you're gonna get the stuff that we got in November 2020. At the time, we were releasing Alien Hives and Mummified Undead. So what are you getting for the Alien Hives? You are getting the what is it called? The assault veteran? No, hold on. The assault prime. I think it's called the Assault Prime. Basically, it's the melee version of the Prime hero, as well as the Winged Prime. Here, you're only seeing the old versions, but you're gonna get the new versions, which have way more weapon options. They have different pistols, different swords, different claws, different whips, different stuff. Then you're also going to get the ravenous beasts, which you can see at the front. These are these snake-like beasts. Again, you're gonna get the new versions which have lots of different options for their arms. And then in the back, you can see that you're also going to get the Carnivorex. And once again, you're going to get the new version that also has like, I think 5 or 6 different weapon options in the back. So you can have like different cannons and stuff like that, which is very cool. And then on the Mummified Undead side, you are going to get so going from bottom to top, I guess. You are going to get the skeleton archers. Interesting at the time, we only had these ones. Oh no, actually, okay. At the time, we were already doing 5. So yeah, here you're gonna get the 5 archers with their various poses. You're also going to get the king on horseback, which nowadays also has more weapon options. You're also going to, and also they get buddy options and stuff like that. You're also going to get the shaman, and finally in the back, the big guy that you see is your it's called your god statue. So it's the god statue. Yes. So beside that, you are also, of course, going to get the two throwback legendaries, or I think they were loyalties. Which is, I think on the left, this was the very first Beastman legendary that we ever made, and this is, or Titan, whatever. Which is your Burning Titan. So the idea was like that we had this sort of, they have centaurs in the faction, so it was like they build these metal effigies that then they set on fire on the inside and they come to life, and so they're kind of like these burning titans. And this is the centaur version of that guy with like a massive sword, and he has this big flame. um, yeah, and you can see how big it is next to the other guy. And on the mummified undead side, you are going to get the god titan, which again is massive. It actually has different weapon options and different head options. There is like a different weapon which is like an Egyptian axe, which is really long. It almost looks like a sickle. And there's actually a different option where instead of having this bird head, it has like this ball head, which was also very interesting at the time. And I think that's about it for the November miniature previews. So now we're gonna move on to the um, January slash February slash whatever previews for the demons. So as we have announced, we are going to be doing what I'm calling the demon onslaught from January all the way through to April. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to be releasing the. Oh yeah, and I have to talk about the Goblin Reclaimers as well. We're going to essentially be re-releasing the four demon factions plus a bunch of new stuff on top of that. Actually, before I start talking more about demons, one quick thing about Goblin Reclaimers. So originally we had planned to release the Goblin Reclaimers over 3 months. We realized that it was way too much work. There were way too many models because we kept adding things and changing things, and then the bug riders and the people wanted bikes and stuff like that. And so we basically decided to extend the Goblin Reclaimers by 1 extra month. So instead of finishing in December, you're going to get more models coming out in January, and basically things are spread out that way. So that means that actually in January, you're getting two demon factions and the Goblin Reclaimers. So January is going to be stacked. All right, talking about the demons. Let me actually move on by one slide, and at least so we have a demon there. Yes, talking about the demons. So it's going to be 4 months of demons. You are going to get all of the demon avatars as your legendaries. Essentially, you are also going to, so every month you're going to get a different legendary, which is one of the big um, what were they called? Sorry, the epic avatar. So you're gonna get the epic avatar of war, the epic avatar of plague, and stuff like that. Loyalty rewards. Instead of only getting 2 loyalty rewards from December to March, you're gonna get 4 loyalty rewards, which is gonna be all the demon avatars. So you're gonna have, the war avatar, all the avatars. You're gonna get everything again. If you didn't have it, then you get everything for the first time. But if you did have it and you're like, that's kind of lame, I already have all this stuff, don't worry, because you're going to get a ton of stuff on top. I think over the 4 months, we're releasing 40 new units, or 40 new packs as part of this release. Essentially, we are going to start, and we're doing in January and February, there's going to be a twin release of War Demons and Plague Demons. And then in March and April, it's going to be a twin release of Lust Demons and Change Demons. And yes, you are going to get a ton of new stuff. You're going to get new heroes. You're going to get new units. You're going to get new Furies. You're going to get new ranged guys. You're going to get new monsters. You're going to get the Soul Demons. Not the Soul Demons, sorry. The Soul Spawns. A bunch of stuff. So, I'm going to give you a little preview today of a couple of things that are coming out for War and a couple of things that are coming out for Plague. And then next month, I'm going to give you a little preview of what is coming out for Change and Lust. So, starting with the War Demons. So, what you're seeing here is the. By the way, I have to say, like, all of these concept art is very sketchy because, of course, with the demons, since we already had models, we didn't need to go super detailed, but it should give you an idea. So, this is your Fury Champion of War. So one of the new units that were added when we updated Demons a couple months ago were, let me quite a few months ago by now, were the Fury champions. This is a new hero type for them. Actually, with v3.5 now, Fury champions always come, or Furies always come with the scout rule. So these are kind of like your fast attackers. They fly and they scout, and they kind of like go ahead of the other forces. Fury champions get all the options as a regular champion, so they get a bunch of different weapons and whips and staffs and spears and all that stuff. So that is your Fury champion of war. Then you're also going to get. I'm not going to go through all the units, by the way. Like I said, there's 10. I think it's 10 units per faction. We're only going to look at 4 now, and then, yeah, you'll see the rest when you get it. Then you are going to get the War Whippers. Basically, it's the first actually ranged unit that we had added to the War Demon Army. Well, if you don't count the cannon, I suppose. Which basically is a unit of whip boys. And this is a full unit, so you're going to get 8 poses. That's 5 combat poses. That's a full command group, with banner, musician, sergeant. And yeah, the cool idea here with them is that basically they kind of like have these long whips, and they can. It's a ranged unit. And actually, with v3.5, we also added options for more go check out v3.5 when you can. So yeah, the War Whippers are one of the units, and actually like everything we're looking at, almost every faction has. So when you're getting a War Fury champion, there's also going to be a Plague Fury champion. There's also going to be a Lust Fury champion. There's also going to be a Change Fury champion. When I'm talking about like basic infantry that has ranged weapons, there is the War Whippers, but the Plague Demons have the Plague Slingers because they have slings. The Lust Demons have the Lust Shooters because they have these like shooter crossbows, and then the Change Demons have the Change Hexers, which basically have like wands and stuff like that. Then you are also going to get bigger things. So in this case, we have what we call the Giant Trihound. The Giant Trihound, it's I think tough 9, so it's not quite the size of like a Carnivorex, right? But it's still pretty damn big, and it's a big, big monster for your war demons. But if you don't want to invest in getting a soul demon, which is massive, it's like 130 millimeters, this guy is your go-to guy. And I think it really enhances the faction that you can also have like these big trihounds that go around and fight. So compared to a regular trihound, I think this is like twice the size. It's big. It's big. So yeah, that's one of your big guys. Then you're also gonna get yes, this is a cool concept. So when we were doing units for the for all these factions, we were like, okay, like we calculated how many units it was going to be, and it was going to be 7 units. Originally, it was going to be 7 units per faction ish. I think one of them gets one more and one of them gets one less, something like that. But let's say it's 7 units per faction. We were like, okay, this is cool. If you never had the demons, then getting all the demons plus all of this new stuff is cool. But if you already had the demons, getting all the demons again, eh, getting the new stuff, cool, but what can we do more? And so one thing that we decided is inspired actually by the concept of the epic avatars, right? So one of the concepts that we introduced in OPR a long time ago is like we have loyalty or legendary like Titanic models, and then we make an epic version of them, which has like a cooler pose, it has like a diorama base and something like that. And then we thought, well, what if we brought this concept to smaller heroes, so not to massive heroes, and these are what we call the heroic heroes. So for example, here you can see a heroic ascended harbinger of war. So on the left side you can see the standard guy, and then on the right side you can see the heroic version. The heroic version basically gets like a cool base, gets a cool pose, maybe custom weapons, get us a cool buddy and stuff like that. Oh yeah, our plan is to release buddies. Hello, buddies. Awesome stuff for these guys. And so here you can see one of them. Each faction gets 3 of these heroic poses. So they get a heroic champion, they get a heroic harbinger, and they get a heroic ascended harbinger. Because then there was the avatar, and we already have the epic avatar. So yeah, here we're seeing the one for war, or one of the ones for war. Now moving on to plague, we can actually look at one of the plague ones. So here, for example, you can see the heroic champion of plague. So on the left you have the standard champion of plague, which it's cool, but the pose is kind of like hunched. It was kind of like and we felt like maybe you don't find this to be heroic enough. So we also created this new heroic version, which is not like it's kind of like screaming, and it's much more epic. And then it also has like a base. Actually, the base is going to be a bit more elevated, so it feels a little bit more heroic, almost like a mini diorama. And then what else are you gonna get? Then you're also going to get, so like I said, there's lots of new stuff coming. There's new units coming, new big guys. There's also new heroes coming. So some factions are getting new heroes that are not just your regular like champion or whatever. And in this case, the plague demons are getting the plague harvester. The idea of the harvester essentially is that we know that the plague demons, they really have this um, appreciation. They really have this strong relationship and bond with life and death and the cycle of life and stuff like that. And the harvester has essentially a big backpack, and then has all these different trinkets of life and death that they carry with them. In the rules, I think the harvester's thing is that basically they have like an aura that gives. Oh, I don't remember exactly what they do. But whatever. They're another one of those heroes that give like a special buff. He has like a cool scythe-like weapon. And yeah, a new hero for your plague demons. Then you're also going to get, yes, so soul spawns. So a lot of people have asked us, like, okay, we have this unit of soul spawns in the army. In all of the demon armies, we have these new units called soul spawns, and a lot of people are like, what is a soul spawn? What does it look like? And I thought that the name kind of implied it, but I guess I have to spell it out. So you know what a soul demon is, which is these massive guys. A soul spawn essentially is a small version of a soul demon. So you're gonna get 4 units of soul spawns, one for each sub faction, so like war, plague, and so on and so forth. So here we're seeing the plague one, but you're also gonna get one for war, for change, and for lust. And the soul spawns essentially are like these T3 units, so they're like 50 millimeters tall. They come with 3 different poses. They come with claws, and then usually they come with a version that has an additional weapon. I think for the now I don't remember. I think for the war they get swords. I think for plague they get axes or hammers. I think for change they kind of like cast fireballs, and then for lust, I think they also get some sort of sword or scythe. I'm not sure. But yes, so this is what a soul spawn looks like. It's like a big gorilla thing. Again, if you have seen what a soul demon looks like, imagine a small version of that guy. That is your soul spawn. And then let's move on to the final slide, which is, okay, one of the big things that's coming out for the plague demons. So we have the snails. And so if you have the heroes for the plague demons, you had a hero that was like on a snail, which was pretty big, and then you had a hero that was on a slug, like a throne on a slug. It's just pretty small. And we know that a lot of people really loved the slug and what it looked like, and it has a cute little face. And so we said, well, what if we make a giant slug? And so basically, this is your giant slug. It's gonna be massive. It's like the Trihound that I showed you before. So it's really big. It's tough 9, or yeah, I think it's tough 9, not tough 12. So it's a big um, it's a big chunky model. And then what we thought is to make it cool, rather than have a regular plague demon ride it, well, what if we have a bunch of buddies be its crew, and they're all on top of it and crawling, and they have different weapons and stuff like that, and they're being silly. Yeah, and I think it looks really cool. Okay, so that was, yes, nice. That was our preview for, let's do it like this. That was our preview for War and Plague. Like I said, next month we're going to do a preview for Change and Lust. Okay, what I'm going to do now is, so before every stream, we usually put out a link where people can send in their questions. I'm going to go over there to that link and essentially answer those questions. And I'm going to put a, hold on, let me write it down here. Q&A starts here. I'm going to put a line essentially in the chat. I'm going to go answer those questions. And after those questions have been answered, I'm going to go here and answer everything that comes under this line, trying to stay in time. Right now, we're at 1 hour and 15. Let's try and 15 more minutes, something like that. Okay, so taking a look at questions. Question number 1. Do you use other games as inspiration for ideas and ways to handle particular game design challenges, like shooting from transport, unit types, or just how other games handle challenges and ideas? Yeah, for sure. Like, even even subconsciously, without thinking about like, oh, I have this idea from this other game. You're always inspired by all the games around you, not just like tabletop games. Um, well, sorry, not just war games, also other tabletop games. So, I might play a board game that has nothing to do with war games and it has like an interesting idea that I'm like, ooh, okay, that could be a way to solve a problem, or that could be an interesting thing that I could adapt to a war game or stuff like that. And then, of course, other games as well, like video games, they can be very inspiring. So, I've said this before, but like Quest and Star Quest are very heavily inspired by Left 4 Dead. It changed over time, but in the original inspiration, of course, was to basically have like an OPR version of Left 4 Dead. Um, and there's lots of inspiration there that come from other games. All right. Next question. After Goblins and Dwarfs, we will get a revamped version of War and Plague. Will we get Lust and Change? Yes, I think I just answered it now. Also, will there be new units? Sorry. Also, there will be new units. Will it change stats for existing units? Also, there will be new units. Will it change stats for existing units? I don't fully understand this question, but let me just answer that. Like, yes, you're gonna get a bunch of models for the units that were currently missing models, and units have been updated with v3.5. Next up, how and when will armies with a released model line get a narrative, quest, or star quest campaign, including a villain? Haha, this is actually very interesting, and we're currently kind of trying to solve this problem. So, what we are planning to do is that it's still not finished. What we're planning to do is that in the future, we maybe next year, let's say, not super soon, as we release faction books, we are going to release. So as we release faction books for factions that already have models, we are going to include a mini quest campaign or star quest campaign with a villain as part of that release. So, for example, unfortunately now we kind of missed the line for it, but like we recently did the Vampiric Undead book. So imagine when the Vampiric Undead book came out, the campaign would have come with it. So for the ones that already had a book, so Duchess of Vinci, Eternal Dynasty, and Vampiric Undead, our plan is actually to just make those campaigns and release them via Patreon. Whenever they're ready. We already do a lot of stuff. It's a lot of work, and adding a bunch of campaigns on top of everything, it's work. So we need time. Next question. Would you consider making OPR a no AI zone? A lot of wargame discovered have a no AI. I mean, yes, OPR is a no AI zone. Like, we don't do anything with AI. All of our art is made by artists. All of our stories are written by artists. Well, writers, I suppose. All of our sculpts are made by sculptors. We don't use AI anywhere, and we don't intend to use it. So it is a no AI zone. Okay, next one. Now that the beta is done, are you interested in working with top level players or designers to expand your design team? Okay, this is an interesting question. So, first off, I did work with top level players and designers. For example, on the beta, we didn't go super public with this, but about a year and a half, about a year and a half ago, I think it was before, like some months basically before v3.4, I actually set up a team of top level OPR players, of whom some of them were actually like game designers. And essentially, we had a crew. We called it the feedback crew, and that crew helped shape v3.4, and then also helped shape v3.5 with the beta. But one of the things that we realized then, once the beta went live, is that there is um, when you have a game with such a massive audience, there is nothing as uh, nothing is ever going to be as helpful as the actual audience that plays the game. Because when you have a crew of 10 people, after a while, whatever new thing you're doing, the 10 people in the crew, they're used to it. So for them, something that maybe at the beginning was like tough, they got used to it, and now we're working on the next thing and working on the next thing and working on the next thing. And by the end of it, it's like we're all looking at the design and we think, yeah, this works. Sure, people might have some objections here and there, whatever, but overall, let's say it works. But then when it goes out to the audience, you realize like, oh wait, like we essentially ended up designing a game for this small group of people rather than designing a game for itself that then gets a feedback from a whole audience. So um, I've also had other like feedback crews before and playtesting groups and stuff like that. And really, the big thing that we learned is that there is nothing is as useful as getting feedback directly from the audience, which the beta did, and it was awesome. And so I want to do a bunch of stuff based on that and learn from that. Um, there is another problem that comes with having like a big design team, which is too many cooks. You know, it's kind of like the programming problem where it's like just adding more and more programmers doesn't make you suddenly code your system faster. It doesn't make your code better. It just doesn't scale the same way. You know, it's not like a machine where you're like, well, you know, if we have one machine, I don't know, crushing acorns. I don't know what I'm thinking about that. Then we'll just have a second machine crushing acorns, and now we're twice as fast. And it's like it doesn't work like that. And so I have actually recently hired an additional designer to help me with mission packs. We had the whole mission pack thing. Sorry, the whole mission. What is it called? Sorry, my brain is foggy. We had the mission challenge. What do we call it? The mission jam. We had the mission jam, and from the mission jam, I hired someone who is now actually working on all the campaigns. So they're really helping. And slowly, I would like to maybe introduce them to war stuff, or maybe introduce additional designers and stuff like that. But it's like it's not as simple as like, oh yeah, just grab a couple of the top players and then it's gonna be good. I thought it was that simple, and so I did that. I followed all the advice that people keep telling me because people keep telling me like, why don't you get more people? Why don't you get top level players? Why don't you get tournament players? Why don't you get designers? Why don't you do this? And I'm like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. And what I learned is that it's cool and it can help in some things, but it doesn't help in others. So it's not that simple. And finally, how have you saved your sanity in such a big project as the beta v3.5? How have I saved my sanity? I don't know. It's I think the fact that I love this and that it's so much fun and that you know these are my games and I get to you know I've been working on these things for 11 years now. And I've been working on other games before, but you know I've been working on these games for 11 years. I know them so well. I know the community. You know I see how things change and shift. You know like a lot of the attitudes that people have towards games today is not how people were reacting to games 5 years ago. It's definitely not how people were reacting to games 10 years ago. So it's different generations of gamers. Like it's just cool for me to work with that. And so it was easy to keep my sanity because I love it. That being said, if it wasn't something that I loved, oh yeah, I don't think I would have kept my sanity. I don't think I would have been able to do all the massive amount of work that I did over the last 8 weeks. Because basically the last 8 weeks I've just been working super overtime. I've been working late nights and like it was fun, but yeah, if I didn't love it, I don't think I would have done it. All right. That was the questions from the form. Now let's go and answer the questions in here. So, Tano, the preview had also said welcome pack one. Is that still true? And if so, is the whole first? And if so, is it the whole first welcome pack? I am actually not the one that's dealing with that right now, so I'm not sure. I don't want to give you a answer. Go to our Discord, ping Param at Param, and he will be able to give you an answer. Um, mm, 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 mm. Okay, just to be sure, the monthly release for demons will include the old demons or just the new minis? Both. So you're getting a ton of content. Like you're basically getting 4 armies in 4 months doubled. Well, I mean, there are 4 armies that used to be smaller, of course, and so you're getting like you're getting 4 armies in 4 months. Like every month, you're getting the equivalent of like a full army. So yeah, it's all the content. Did you rework demons like Alien Hives or just new units? We are reworking them not like Alien Hives, but we are rescaling some of the models where like some models like their scale was off. Some things were too thin, so we made like certain weapons thicker. We made certain arms thicker, ankles thicker. We made certain heads bigger. We tweaked hands and stuff like that. So we reworked them, but not like the Alien Hives. Where in the Alien Hives we made, we completely remade the units from scratch. And yes, there's going to be new units. Will the central gun of the Goblin Deathwalkers be printable separately to switch them around? Yes, as far as I know, it's fully modular. So you have cuts at the arms and you have cuts here at the head, and you actually have a cut at the eyes, like where the thing is. So you could theoretically be like, okay, I'm going to swap the little goblin with just the hatch, and then swap the gun at the top, and then swap the arms and stuff like that. Sea elves when it's ready. Who knows? You mentioned one goal of v3.5 was to remove aliasing, but I feel there is more aliasing now. No, absolutely not. I can tell you, well, I don't have the thing right now, so I can tell you that before, I think there was like somewhere in the range of 300 to 500 alias rules, and now I think there are 40, because basically it's that the only thing that we're aliasing now is the army wide rule. That's the one thing we're aliasing. But other than that, we're not aliasing anything. So yeah, we have reduced by like a ton. So before each army had like a dozen aliases, now they have one. So it's a huge um, decrease in aliases. Somebody asked, will the old units be updated to get thicker? Yes. Um, would you consider making the StarQuest Alien Hives models use more organic gear rather than being kitted out like human soldiers? No. So the whole point of the StarQuest minis and the Quest minis as well is that whilst we do code them as a specific faction, so we say, well, these are Alien Hives and that's HDF and whatever. They're actually meant to be independent adventurers, right? Because this is like an adventuring game. So the idea is that if you look at all their gear, it's all like, yeah, some gear is faction coded, but a lot of the gear is like has nothing to do with the faction at all, because they're adventurers. So the idea with the Alien Hives is that, like, this guy is an Alien Hive adventurer. He goes, he's a mercenary. He goes on some space station. He buys himself a cool gun. It doesn't have to be an organic gun, and so that's one of the ways that we're trying to emphasize that it's different um, than the regular models. In a future update, will there be a larger difference between the army-wide rules? Maybe not. It really depends. So when we launched the beta, originally every army had very, very different army-wide rules, which caused a bunch of problems. And ultimately, we decided to basically like narrow down to which are the ones that really work well, and we went with that. But in the future, we might update it. So if we have some cool ideas of something that works within the scope of how complex army-wide rules how complex we want army-wide rules to be, then sure. Or maybe at some point we decide to change our design goals and change how army-wide rules are made. Yeah, could be. So we're always open to everything, right? The same way things change now, things changed 1 year ago, things changed 2 years ago, and so on and so forth. And so things are going to change in a year, and in 2 years, and 3 years. So if we have cool ideas, yeah, for sure, we are going to keep differentiating the army-wide rules. Micro Titan base at 105 is interesting. Is there a Micro Titan coming for OPR or an affiliate officially? No, there are no Titan Lords models planned for now. What are your plans for getting stuff into brick and mortar game stores? I ask because my local friendly game store is interested. So, it's there's many layers to it, but at the basics is like, if you are a retailer, you could have backed the Broken Truth campaign. You can get directly in contact with us, info at onepagerules.com, or I think we have sales at onepagerules.com now as well. But info, I'm sure that works well. So you can tell your game store to contact info at onepagerules.com. We're going to make announcements about it. We're talking to retailers about it. We are going to conventions about it. So we have lots of ways that we're currently reaching out to brick and mortar stores. And of course, we're also hoping that they slowly start reaching out to us. We have like a whole brochure and catalog that we can show them. It's kind of cool. Was there any beta feedback that made you go, damn, why didn't I think of that? I remember that there was one thing that somebody suggested. I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Why the hell didn't I think about that? And I don't remember what it was now. Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but I remember very clear that there was a moment where somebody suggested something. I was like, oh yeah, like That makes like I was breaking my head trying to solve a problem and it was a mess and I the solution that was and then somebody was like, "Why don't you just do this?" And I was like, "Oh, Jesus, like yes." And so we just implemented it. I don't remember what it was. It might have been changes to the steadfast rule. That's the only thing that kind of comes to mind now, but I don't remember. Tano, do you still have fun playing OPR? Is playing OPR for you like work? No. OPR is still fun. Playing OPR is still fun. Honestly, I don't get to play as much as I wish. Well, it's kind of this thing also where like I do play testing and stuff like that for work. So I guess maybe in some ways like I get my fill there. I watch a lot of battle reports. I read a lot of battle reports and stuff like that. Maybe like I'm living vicariously through other people playing the game. I still enjoy the hobby. It's just different. For me it's not. I mean, you know what they say, if you make your hobby your work, you'll never work a day in your life or something like that. And there are things about this job that are a job. Like it's work. There's no ways around it. There's a lot of bureaucracy and there's a lot of stuff like that. But the rest is very fun, and so it doesn't really feel like work. I still enjoy the hobby. I really don't get to paint many minis nowadays. Maybe once I get Broken Truth, I'll paint a full set. And but I play board games with friends. I play a lot of video games nowadays. Um, it's getting colder, so I get to play more games. But yeah, yeah, I think that's it. Are there plans for an eventual OPR Saga novels? Um, Maybe. So I like the idea of novels. I don't know that they will be directly tied to the sagas or if they will be novelized version of the sagas or if they will be I'm not sure exactly how they will be made, but I think novels are a super cool idea. The big thing for us is we need to keep expanding our lore and establishing our lore and establishing an audience for our lore, because there's a lot of people nowadays that still come to OPR and they're like, oh, like I've been playing OPR for 6 months, I didn't even know you guys had lore. Which sometimes I'm surprised because I'm like, the website has a bunch of updates. Okay, maybe they're not paying attention to the website. And then I say, well, the Discord has a bunch of updates. Maybe they're not paying attention to Discord. But then I'm like, when you go to build an army on Army Forge, the first thing you see is that there's a whole lore, and you can click on read more, and it will send you to the website. But it is what it is. So yes, as we establish more and more of an audience for our lore, we'll be able to expand into things like novels and books and stuff like that. Okay. I've always been curious of if you get a giggle out of posting teasers on Discord just to see what people theorize and if anyone has guessed them. Yes. I do love putting little teasers out there, and um yeah, sometimes people guess. Like sometimes I'm really surprised. I put something that I'm like, this means nothing. Like I have no idea how somebody could theorize anything out of this. It's like, I don't know, the corner of a shoe of a mini, and then people are like, oh yeah, this the angle of this looks like this, so maybe it's that. And I'm like, oh my god, you got it completely right. And how did you do that? So yes, putting teasers is really fun. Honestly, sometimes I'm so busy I completely forget to do it. But yeah. um mm, 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 mm. Uh, Shout out to Adam for creating the best army builder out there. Could you please grant him permission to add wounds to the share as text headers, for example, 90 wounds? Not sure about that. It is something that we're gonna keep talking about, but right now, not really sure. Um, any plans on introducing heroes models with unique abilities? Um, to some extent, sure. For the narrative heroes, especially, we can try doing more wacky stuff. That being said, everything still has to fit within the OPR ethos. And ideally, we don't want, like, one of the things that I don't want is that the OPR narrative heroes feel um I don't want it to feel unfair. I don't want it to feel like, well, I must use OPR narrative heroes because they're so much better or so much more interesting or so much more whatnot than the regular units in my army. And then that's going to feel a bit, I don't know. Our point was never to make something to force you or make you feel like you're forced to buy into our stuff. And I don't want to do that now. Like, I don't want to make our heroes have the most unique, interesting rules. And then you're like, well, I must use narrative heroes. Um, Have you considered making repair part files, for instance, for the tails of Triceratops? I'm not sure what you mean. I don't know what you mean with repair part files. So I don't know what you mean. If there are any issues with the files, let us know on Discord, and then we will, fix and update anything there is to do. In one of your monthly streams, you stated that the skirmish would be moving away from the wound system and do a T3 and more systems. Is this change still on the table? If so, how is it going? How is it going? The change is still on the table. It's something for v3.6. How is it going? My brother, I just spent 8 weeks, working 12-hour days, trying to get this v3.5 off the road. So it's not going. It's was put on hold whilst I work on this stuff. Now that I'm done with the beta, I'm slowly gonna get into it, and then probably it's probably gonna be the first thing that's released on labs. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for more info. More of a design idea question, but with the emphasis on heraldry and such. Are you going for something akin to Xeon for the Titan lords? What would you say is the look you hope to do for them? I don't know what Xeon is. Let me Google this. Xeon. Oh, it's like mix. No, this definitely doesn't look like the direction that we're going. So the whole idea for us with Titan Lords is that it's basically these like mega gazillionaires who are kind of like they're so rich and bored they kind of like forget their humanity and they're just like fuck it, we're just gonna wage war for fun. And so the idea for me is each that each Titan is kind of like very unique in, and I'm not exactly sure how we're gonna do the models. Like the idea for me is maybe that they have certain chassis, like certain frames that they use, and then each one of them like you know adds things and changes. Like if you look at like chivalrous knights, where like each knight has like different colors and different armor and different ornaments in the various parts of the armor, and the helmet has something on top. Like that's kind of what I imagine in terms of vibes. Like it's just this medieval almost uh, uh, vibe to these titans. Okay. Oof, there's still a lot of questions. I'm gonna try and go fast because we're over the 130 mark. Will we be able to buy additional add-on materials for Broken Truth after the campaign ended? Yes. How do you see the future of OPR in brick and mortar distribution? Big boxes for wow effect or small boxes for efficiency? Small boxes for efficiency is not exactly how it works. Right now, the basic idea is that you're going to be able to buy big boxes and then add-ons for the various factions. Just out of the sheer amount of models that are available for every faction, we will not be able to put all the models in the store. But the idea for us would be that, yeah, like you'll have a box. For example, now with Broken Truth, you have a big box. You get the Star Host, you get the Robot Legions, you have your starter set, and then you have like 2 or 3 expansion boxes where you're like, okay, you get I think they're called the Core expansion, the Vanguard expansion, and the Elite expansion. Then you're like, okay, I like this expansion, and so you can expand on your army. And then as we release more boxes, you'll get more of that. Ogre Champ on Mammoth. I don't know what the question is. Have you ever thought to make also an OPR for historical armies? No, I don't really think that there's a point to it, especially if we wanted to make minis. We're not going to go make historical minis. There are so many historical minis out there, and generally speaking, I feel like the historical audience wants more historical games, and so there's lots of offering there. And for those people that want to play OPR using historical stuff, there's already lots of custom armies from fans out there. So that's it. Now that the beta is out in the hands of the wider player base, should we be expecting a little window of hotfix or changes locked in until the next game update? So you can expect hotfixes to like the core rules and beginner's guide and stuff like that, maybe within the next month. It really depends. So like that's what we usually do every year. Like we release. So imagine we release v3.5.0, and then we wait about a month to collect any info on like the PDFs that we might need to change, and then we do a hot fix and we change those things, and then it's v3.5.1, and then we lock it down there. When it comes to the armies, we're going to continue doing our regular thing of quarterly updates to the armies. So Yeah. One of the things though is quarterly updates to armies are not massive. It's like, hey, we tweaked one little thing here, we've added a unit there. Maybe sometimes we do make a rework of an army, like the demons were reworked as part, and the ratmen, for example, the ratman clans were reworked as part of a quarterly update. And I actually have an idea for a couple of things that we could do that way, but I would say maximum one major rework per quarterly update. So don't expect it to be, basically, don't expect the quarterly updates to just be, well, it's more beta, right? It's more huge changes like in the beta. Um any chance for opposable walkers in the future? Maybe when we do the Titan Lords, but not sure. Um okay. Uh will the physical rulebook be available to buy somewhere in Europe? So if you are talking about, it depends on what book you're talking about. So we want to. Okay, I think you're talking specifically about the. Okay, you're talking about the Broken Truth book. So if the stores can buy and carry that book, and we want to carry that book as well, so people will and should be able to buy it and have it. The reason you were not able to buy it at Spiel Essen is because we haven't made the book. Whilst Spiel was running, the campaign was still running, so you couldn't buy it because we didn't have it. It's not that we were like withholding it from people. But yes, we're hoping to release books that way. One of the things that we've been talking about for a long time internally is also the idea of releasing soft cover versions of the advanced books, probably available via print on demand or something like that. I'm gonna be honest. There's so many things that we're doing at the same time. That things fall by the wayside. We try and we're hoping, but no promises. Okay, that was the last question for now. We're 1 hour and 40 minutes. Okay, only 10 minutes over the timer. Thank you everyone for coming. This was a cool stream. Go check out v3.5 right now. Go get the core rules. Go get the beginner's guides. Go update all of your books. Go get the new mission cards. Go check out your armies and go and have fun. Our next live stream is going to be on the 27th of November. That's the last Thursday of the month. So it's exactly a month from now. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you everyone for coming, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.